Musical Talk, the UK independent musical theatre podcast.
I'm delighted to be joined here on Musical Talk by the book writer of Sea Witch, Michael Glover. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Before we started recording, you said you're in a rehearsal room. Does that mean you're in rehearsals at the moment?
Yes, so March the 1st is our concert, and we've got two sort of full-on weeks prior to that, but then we're kind of doing sporadic rehearsals as and when people are available and we have space. So it's all systems go here at Sea Witch HQ.
Tell us about Sea Witch and its history and its future and where we are right now in the middle.
Oh, that's a big question. So Sea Witch, the elevator pitch really is that Sea Witch is the precursor to Little Mermaid. It's based on a book by Sarah Henning, published by HarperCollins, that Chris Russell, who I created See This With, we found probably very late in 2019. So this is before the dark time, shall we say, for theatre, when everything went a bit south. And we found, well, actually, Chris found the book in our Waterstones. I think the story goes that it was, chucking it down with rain. He ran into a local Waterstones and saw his amazing book cover, picked it up. And we were kind of looking for that sort of villain origin story lane. And he threw it my way and said, go away and read this. And I read, a book per week. So I was like, sure. And I thought it had some really interesting themes. And I thought it was something that we were looking at, that sort of villain origin story. We were looking to create a musical that kind of redefined what spectacle is possible in traditional musical theatre. I think we've seen these big spectacle musicals from 15, 20 years ago. I think the world has moved on, and how do we bring more cinema? How do we bring more, because Chris and my background has been working in Las Vegas in these big spectacle shows. So we thought, how can we infuse those big Cirque du Soleil style things into musical theatre? That's not to say we're going to have a trapeze flying through the show, absolutely not. But how can we bring that more grander scale and feel to a show? But we also needed to have something that had a deep-rooted story with characters, with themes that was quite, very universal, that appealed to a big audience. Because, this is commercial theatre, and we'd love to have this show run for as long as possible. So we need to find a story that had quite a wide appeal and had themes that could be applied to, lots of people. So, Chris and I went knocking on HarperCollins' door, and we somehow convinced them to let us do it. And then lockdown happened, and we had just spent some money on these rights, and we'd knocked on a few doors of producers, and ultimately the phone lines went very quiet very quickly over lockdown. And we brought in the composer Shego Parole at that point, and we had written a few demos, and we thought, oh, we're onto something. So we sort of just hunkered down for 6 months, and we came out with a first draft.
Do you think lockdown was a blessing in a way, that it really, because I, as a creative myself, I kind of enjoyed it because I was able to really focus on some projects, and everyone was around to be around to pick up a phone. There's no excuse, so I can't speak to you, I'm busy. Or was everything in the kind of development world paused?
I mean, look, I think commercially and a juicer side of it all was non-existent, and that was I think the most difficult part of it all. But being a creative in that space, again, like you said, there was no other reason to do anything. And we had just spent some money on this option period with HarperCollins, and we thought, we've got to come out the other side with something. So we said to Shagan, hey, let's keep going? And he said yes. And when we kind of came out, when lockdown was sort of opening up, we were bringing people into the studio, doing more demos. We did some table reads. We did a choreo lab. So it's been slowly unfolding. We also, I think it's quite interesting to sort of mention, we did dabble in the film world on this project for a while. So obviously theatre, when it was reopening, a lot of producers were still saying, oh no, we're focusing on how to reopen 6 shows. We're not looking at any new work. So even then, coming out of COVID and theatre opening again, the conversations were still tough. And we then looked at like, hey, is there a film in this? So we actually got the piece optioned by quite a big production company. But the problem with that is we weren't allowed to talk about it in the theatre sphere while it was going through the whole studio process. And that's a whole different conversation, being a creative, going through the film studio process, having meetings and talking about it. And, because it's not a small story. So it would require quite a large studio to kind of coming through and back it. So we went through a whole process with film. I sat and did a whole screenplay, which is like a whole new exercise in itself, how to turn something for stage and 2 acts into a 90-minute screenplay, which I'm glad I did it because it's development, but I'm very glad where we are now because it's back in the roots of where we started. But ultimately, at the end of that process, we were like, as a team, we said, look, this is a huge project for film. Let's give the project its start in theatre. So we took the option back and we said, look, we really want to just push on with theatre. Because I think as well, being a new creative, kind of entering that space of film, personally was a little bit scary because, as a writer, you kind of see they sort of bring in other writers, you can get pushed to the side. And I kind of just felt weary that maybe the project might run away from where it started. So I'm very glad that we're now back here. We're back now Theatre Lane, and we can talk about in a bit about being a creative and also producing your own work, because that's a very interesting space to be in and navigate on the daily. So yeah, we were looking at various things of trying to get how we can launch Sea Witch, and there's many ins and outs of this business, and we thought, musicals take years to develop and kind of see its first premiere performance. And we thought actually it's really important for us to build an audience. I see a lot of these new musicals opening cold without releasing any music and then doing 8 shows a week and then struggling, especially on Broadway. Broadway is it's quite a bloodbath at the moment, especially for new musicals. And I see these new musicals open and, no one's really heard anything about it. It's new IP. They don't know what it is. So the reason why we're doing this in concert is to firstly launch the project, to finally talk about it. We've been keeping this kind of stumm behind the scenes for too long. And we thought actually it's time to let people know what we're doing. And we want people to hear it. We want people to experience what this is. Granted, the concert is not the production of Sea Witch that it will become one day, but it's the heart and soul of it. It's the music. It's a reduced book, which is a whole conversation that give me anxiety about reducing the script down to something in a concert format. But it's really delivering what Sea Witch is, what it's about, the heart and soul of it, and most importantly, the music. This is a musical, and I think that's what music lifts up, the emotion and the drama of the piece. And the reason why we chose to do it in concert format is because we want to get that audience in soon. We want to start building its audience. We know that we have something special in Sea Witch, but producing a show takes a lot of work, and we wanted to sort of get it up on a stage in its early stage to kind of like get the audience in, to get the feedback, to share the music, to build the brand of Sea Witch.
Now you're mentioning you're doing this concert production at the rather illustrious Theatre Royal Drury Lane. How do you get to that stage? Obviously, you've written it, you've condensed it, you've worked on what you wanted to be. The hardest bit is getting it to anywhere, let alone the Theatre Royal Drury Lane. So how much you had to say about that process? Because that's interesting, I think.
I guess it's how transparent I should be on this call, shall I say? Yeah. Look, it's extremely exciting. I do want to talk about being a creative and producing your own work because it's very unheard of. I think there's a lot of people doing it now. I mean, if you look at the likes of like Todrick Hall is producing his own work and sort of getting behind it. And I think we're in a space now where creatives are not wanting to wait for other people to control their own work. And, you know, without going into the sort of ins and outs of it, we've had offers from other producers, and it's been to the point where I just don't think the vision for the piece is aligned with what we want to do with it. And, you know, hats off to them, they're great producers and things like that. But it's when you know kind of where you want to go with it and your vision for it, and it doesn't quite align with someone who essentially is coming in to, you know, finance the project and produce it to a stage. If you're giving away all that control to someone else and it doesn't quite align with what you want for it, it's very difficult to say, sure, here's this child that I've been working on for the last couple of years. And I think that's why we landed with a concert. So we knew that we had something really special, and producing a large West End musical is a mountain to climb. And I think it takes a beat for people to really get behind a project. Like, you know, there's the idea of a project, there is maybe a few demos of a project, but until they see it and can buy into what the show is, that's when you truly get the support behind you. I mean, we've been very fortunate to have some backers on this that we've been mentored by you know, a number of years now, who saw the potential in the project and us as creatives and said, yeah, we'll back this. Let's put this in this format and sort of allow it along its journey in this very, you know, early stages of this musical. So we knew that we wanted to build the audience early. I mentioned earlier on about, you know, a lot of shows opening cold on, you know, more so on Broadway than here in the West End, but we knew that we wanted to build the audience as soon as possible. This music is very universal. It's very, I think, where musical theatre is heading in terms of the sound in musical theatre. One of my biggest bugbears in musical theatre is when people say, oh, I hate musicals. And I'm like, well, you like music, right? So there should be a blend of the two. So I think doing it in this format is a beautiful introduction to the project. Like I said, it's not going to be the actual production of Sea Witch, but it gives the heart and soul of it. But kind of on that, we're going well above and beyond what a concert does in this sort of field. Like, we've got this amazing lighting designer, we've got incredible choreo from the wonderful Dean Lee, and the importance of this concert is to just convey the ambition of this piece. And that doesn't mean it's going to be this huge production, but in terms of like the quality of the work that we're trying to do on this. So,
and also it gets we've always said in this show, the final collaborator of any piece is the audience. So it's a wonderful experience to see what works, what doesn't, what jokes land, and what, you know, songs land, and it kind of almost acts as a process for the writers to go, okay, that works, that doesn't work, this all works, we're absolutely fine. So it's a wonderful testing ground, isn't it, really?
I mean, it does fill me with anxiety. Yeah, we've done multiple table reads, we've played this to a lot of people, we've done choreo labs, and, you know, the feedback has been incredible, but that doesn't amount to 2,000 people sitting in front of it and looking at the full piece. So look, I'm super proud of the piece. I know that we have something very special, and yeah, I'm anxiously excited to see what audiences will think. You know, it's and that's also been an interesting part of the journey, the process, is feedback. You know, I've had some producers, you know, read me back the lyrics, and they're like, well, this isn't lyrical genius. I'm like, well, go away and listen to the song, and it's giving you something else. And I think what I'm trying to say there is, like, you know, people give, it's a lot of opinions and a lot of feedback, but until those are the people behind you supporting you, you could rewrite this book 14 times. I mean, like, musicals are rewritten, not written, right? So, but I think at some point in the process, we were kind of giving out for people to read, and there were just all these conflicting ideas and opinions, and it's like, if we continue in this fashion, it's never going to get produced, because you'll just spend the rest of your life rewriting.
It just goes round, and often you end up where you started. I mean,
Yeah.
I work in music for theme parks and stuff, so everyone has an opinion, and then you change it so much, it gets back to where it began. It's like, okay, well, I was right in the first place, so let's just carry on, and we can get what the writer envisioned, which is interesting what you say about producing and creating. You kind of, it'd be lovely to have a producer that just said, yes, do what you want, but then if they're raising all the money for it, they want to have some say. But do you think the days of, dare I say, Cameron McIntosh coming in and having overall creative control of everything, are those days fading, would you think?
I think it's really project specific. I think, if, one of these West End legends, come in and they find a writer that they really back and they have this shared vision, I think you're going to get greatness. I think we've all been to productions where we've seen where some of the team have not really been aligned, and it's a shame. I don't think it's gone in terms of like those types of people, because they're still giants and still leaders in this field. It it doesn't also help that they're also the theatre owners. That's also the hard part to get in when you've got a new show. But I think kind of what I was saying before, like it takes people, it takes an audience, it takes the industry a second to really grasp onto what you're trying to do. We've been releasing some videos for the concert kind of music video style, and it's been interesting seeing how press are picking those up, how the industry are picking those up, and people are like, oh, I get what you're trying to do now. We get what the vision is. And I think it goes back to the idea of just saying, you just need to go and do the thing. You need to go and do it however you get it done. You need to prove your concept. You need to prove it to whoever you're trying to pitch it to try and sell it to. And, because we commissioned the first 2 demos and we thought, until we had a great title, we had a great sort of key art that has changed over the years, and people loved the idea and people wanted to hear it, what music sounded like. So it took us to go away and write a few songs, kind of come back, and then people were like, oh, I like it, but keep going. And you're like, right, how do we get from that point to then having a fully fledged script and score for people to really buy behind it?
And you have a wonderful cast as well, don't you? So tell us whom we'll be seeing on stage when we see this concert production.
We have been so lucky with our cast for many reasons. So in our lead cast, we have, as Evie, who is our protagonist, we have the wonderful Natalie Paris, who we were doing a music video with her right before Christmas, and it's the first time I've seen this character really come to life. And I was sat on the side of the studio, and I was sort of just looking at her, and I sort of went to her, I said, I have to apologize if I'm just staring at you, because I am just so enamored with what you're doing and seeing this character come to life that's been in my head for like almost 5 years now. And then she got emotional. I said, no. I said, you're filming. I can't upset this. I said, but if I'm staring at you, I'm not being a creep. I promise. I'm just so in awe of what you're doing. And she is sensational. And I really can't wait for people to see, they've only just seen a snippet of what there is. So yes, we have Natalie Paris as Evie. We have the very lovely Amy DiBartolomeo as Annette. This story focuses around them, but I'm very excited to see how the audience reacts to Annette's journey in this. She kind of starts very nice and the hero, and then turns into something less heroic in Act 2. So I'm excited to see how that unfolds. So yeah, Natalie Paris, Amy DiBartolomeo. We have the iconic Michelle Visage, the matriarch of the West End, Maz Murray, and the very lovely Jay McGuinness as one of our princes. So, and that's our cast so far. We have one more role to cast. We've got our ensemble locked in, which we'll be announcing very soon, and they are sensational. We have Natsi Kasanga as one of our other principals, and she's great. And yeah, I think we've been very lucky. The casting process has been interesting, I will say. I think it goes back to the idea of like getting people behind the project and also this concept, because we wanted to find the right people to launch this with that could, you know, give us the attention this project needs and also the talent to back this up. Today's actually quite a special day. We're dropping the Michel Visage video today, which is very iconic. It's very gothic. It's very gospel. I'm excited to see how people react to that, because I don't think anyone's seen Michelle in this light. She sounds phenomenal, and I can't wait for people to be like, wow, that's Michel Visage in Sea Witch. So yeah, I mean, the lineup we've got is fantastic, and I think they're just going to really lift the music off the page and bring it to life on March 1st, which is all very exciting.
We're very much looking forward to it. And Michael, thank you for coming on to Musical Talk to discuss this. Where can people go to find out more information about the show if they want to book?
So they can go to LW Theatres or Today Tix. There are ticket partners on this. They can search for us on Instagram. We are just at Sea Witch Musical. All the links will be on there. Like I said, we've got some content dropping. We have another Natalie Paris video that we haven't touched yet. That's the end of Act 1 song that we've got in music format, which is sensational. So yeah, tell your people to come and follow our journey. We're going to be posting a lot more of the journey in rehearsal. So I'm excited for everyone to see more of Sea Witch.
Lovely. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it. It's you've whetted my appetite, no pun intended. And we'll speak to you soon, I hope, Michael. Good luck with everything.
Yeah,
And,
thank you.
everyone go and see Sea Witch. Thank you so much.
Yes, see you there, March 1st.
Thanks to Michael Glover there for appearing on Musical Talk. We're going to end this episode with a song from the show called Tidal Wave, performed by the wonderfully talented Natalie Paris.
Another night I watch the tide roll by. The only one who knows my secrets. Tired of holding back this truth inside. I could cry, but it doesn't make a difference. Under the moonlight I can't hide my shame. Nothing can justify this treason. A lonely heart that's holding out for change. Give it up, 'cause there's no use in dreaming. What if there's somewhere with someone like me? Together we'll let it burn. We'll be free from the writings on the wall, 'cause history will not repeat forever anymore. Like a tidal wave from a drop of rain, I won't hide away, and everything would change. Yes, I'll control the weather. When it's pouring down, I'll rise again. Say goodbye to who I was before. I don't wanna play the victim. Leave my footprints here along the shore. Take a breath and step towards my freedom. 'Cause if there's somewhere with someone like me, together we'll let it burn. We'll be free from the writings on the wall, 'cause history will not repeat forever anymore. Like a tidal wave from a drop of rain, I won't hide away, and everything would change. Yes, I'll control the weather. When it's pouring down, I'll rise secret I finally shared. Like a tidal wave from a drop of rain, I won't hide away, and everything would change. Yes, I'll control the weather when it's pouring down. I'll rise again, like a tidal wave from a drop of rain. I won't hide away. Nothing will ever change if I control the weather when it's pouring down. I'll rise again.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Musical Talk. To find out more about the world of Musical Talk, you can visit our website at musicaltalk.co.uk, where you'll find all our episodes, or you can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Please follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Musical Talk.